240,000 employees in 22 separate agencies comprise the Department of Homeland Security, whose mission is to protect and secure the nation from the many threats, foreign and domestic, that face our nation in today's troubled times. The DHS annual budget this year exceeds $70 billion, which includes approximately $18 billion for major disaster response and recovery. The department's communications, data management, security, and analytics requirements exceed $7 billion annually. As Deputy Chief Information Officer, Elizabeth Beth Cappello essentially acts as the department's Chief Operating Officer for the effective management of the DHS IT portfolio. To this position, she brings more than 20 years DHS IT management experience, including tenure as Executive Director of the Field Support Unit within U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and later as Deputy and then Acting CIO for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Please welcome to the stage a United States Marine Corps veteran and Deputy Chief Information Officer for the Department of Homeland Security, Beth Cappello.
Well, hey everybody, how you doing? All right, I know it's in the afternoon. We've all had lunch. Some folks were out late last night. So I'm gonna try not to bore you to tears, and we're not gonna play the bingo game. I think I mentioned it yesterday, talking about things like zero trust and modernization, transformation, and all of those things. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk to you about the greatest organization that I have ever had the privilege to serve, and that's the Department of Homeland Security. I'm going to talk to you about where we were when I first joined headquarters and where we are today. And then I'll talk a little bit about where we're going and what our approach to modernization, resilience, and tackling all of the things that we need to do in order to protect our homeland against the variety of adversaries that are out there challenging us. I moved up to the department 22 months ago. It's been almost 2 years. And based on the background you heard, I have spent my entire federal career with the Department of Homeland Security or its legacy component agencies, places like the U.S. Customs Service, and as mentioned, Customs and Border Protection, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And I never really had aspirations about going to headquarters because based on my time in the Marine Corps, I really like serving the mission. I like being right out there with the operators and doing everything we can to facilitate their effectiveness. But had an opportunity to come up and serve at headquarters 22 months ago. When I got there, there were several very large initiatives going on. Some of you are familiar with our need to transition off of the legacy GSA networks contract onto the EIS contract. Part of that's network modernization. We had a big initiative to exit out of the DHS Data Center 2, and also recompete a very large contract managing our Data Center 1. Get to headquarters, these activities are moving along pretty well. And then in February of 2020, the world began to change. And my operations team had to transition just about overnight to supporting a wholly remote workforce. On any given day in DHS, prior to the COVID pandemic, we'd probably have 10,000 folks working remotely. Overnight, we went up to about 70,000, and we didn't skip a beat. So in the context of things like transformation, I'm a little hesitant to say we need to transform, because I think we've got a bunch of rock stars in the IT community in DHS. They transitioned to remote work. They kept all of the missions supported in the face of things like COVID, solar winds, and a couple of other activities, natural disasters and the like. Additionally, they kept doing all the things that we said we were going to do before we knew about COVID. So right now, we've awarded the EIS fair opportunity up at headquarters. We've started the network modernization efforts. We're gonna be out of DC2 by the end of this year, and we're gonna close that contract out on time. And we're gonna award that contract to manage Data Center 1. And they did all of that while keeping the environment secure and available and resilient for our workforce. Additionally, they took on a few other tasks. COVID required us to support an initiative for the department called Vaccinate Our Workforce. And in order to communicate effectively with our mission employees and operators to ensure that they could get vaccinated to continue to operate successfully, we stood up our Agile development team, run by Mr. Phil Latout, stood up a platform application to allow us to communicate with the workforce, allow them to opt in for vaccinations, and allowed us to track who had been vaccinated. Additionally, some other things that we managed to get done while everything else was going on, our Network Operations Security Center went to initial operating capability. That's an outcropping of the Security Operations Center optimization effort driven by OMB, probably started about two and a half years ago. For us, it allowed us to collapse 5 network operations centers, 5 or 6 security operations centers, close a bunch of seams, improve our visibility across the environment, and introduce some efficiencies and effectiveness across the entirety of the DHS Homeland Security Enterprise Network. What else have we done? You know, when you talk about an agency the size of DHS, we're the 3rd largest federal civilian agency, and we have such a multitude of missions, everything from facilitating trade and travel to law enforcement, investigations and support, to supporting the American public during natural disasters. And we all manage to come together when necessary to meet our missions, regardless of what it is on any given day that we have to face. And when I look at what I have to do as the Deputy Chief Information Officer to facilitate those mission sets, we're looking forward. We've established a really, really strong foundation that's going to allow us to continue moving forward and continue serving this mission in a way that's efficient and effective and really cool most days of the week. So what do we got coming up? Well, I think many of you have heard about the TMF, the fund, got $1 billion. We want to help them spend some of it. And we were one of the first ones out of the gate with 4 initial proposals. The very first one, which CIO Eric Heisen and I had the pleasure of briefing to the TMF board yesterday, is a Southwest Border Integration Initiative. And one of the things we're trying to do from a headquarters perspective is look across the various DHS mission sets and see how we can begin to facilitate integration and collaboration and share best practices across those mission sets. The Southwest Border Integration Initiative is looking specifically at the tri bureaus of CBP, ICE, and USCIS to look at ways that we can improve the efficient handoffs and integration of data from one agency to another. And the fundamental goal there is to reduce the amount of time that any human being spends in our custody. And so we want to move folks through the process faster. We actually started on it, 3 months ago, and we've already made great progress, but we're really hoping that with an injection of funds from the TMF, we'll be able to further that work. We have 3 other proposals that are teed up. They're also looking across DHS component collaboration areas and activities. We've got one that I think would be of particular interest to anybody here that travels every once in a while. We're looking at furthering the contactless travel activities across Customs and Border Protection and the TSA. And we hope to be able to leverage some facial recognition capability to facilitate the user experience anytime you're in an airport. I, for one, am looking very forward to that one. We have another initiative for FEMA to allow FEMA to develop analytics that will help them as they're dealing with the American public and informing the American public about resources available in response to natural disasters. And then we have some work that we'd like to do for information sharing on the Homeland Security Information Network. That's a platform we use to communicate with state, local, and tribal communities and allow them to share information with one another in a facilitated manner. So with that, we hope that we can leverage that $1 billion, or at least a portion of it, out of the TMF and begin to continue the efforts that we've started in modernizing the environment at DHS. Now, you may or may not have noticed that I have not talked about cybersecurity, and I know that's a topic that is really on everybody's mind these days. The department was impacted by the SolarWinds breach. We are certainly concerned about the threat vectors and the rise in cybersecurity concerns. So this year we plan not only to invest funding in remediating some of the environmentals that we need to impact based on what happened with SolarWinds, but we also want to further our cybersecurity efforts based on some work that we did previously. You may have heard about our cybersecurity provider program, where last year in FY20, we did an assessment of all the security operations centers across DHS to ensure that everyone was operating at a minimal viable level at a baseline. And those component SOCs that were assessed and passed were certified to be security operations center providers to other areas of DHS. I'd like to say that program has been a resounding success because this past year, that team went and assessed the Department of Justice Security Operations Center, certified that SOC so that now they are a CISA-CUSMO marketplace security operations center provider. So as we look to further our cybersecurity efforts across DHS, a few things that we need to look at. I think we've talked a little bit about frameworks. I said I wasn't going to play the bingo with Zero Trust and the Zero Trust framework, but obviously it plays into what we're doing. Earlier in the year, we started 7 Zero Trust use cases, and we're looking at ways to do this in an incremental approach so that we can apply security that allows us to show success and develop architectures that we can then share across the components within DHS. Additionally, we're looking at, hopefully, we'll get a budget in FY22. Anybody want to say a prayer with me? And we will be looking at building some additional threat hunting capability in several of the components across DHS and certainly at DHS headquarters. We will be looking at working closely with our Chief Procurement Officer on a supply chain risk management strategy. Actually, we've already started a little bit in that area with a couple of proof of concept programs. Looks a little bit like the DoD's CMMC program, but we're being very mindful of the impacts on the vendor community, and we want to partner closely to make sure that we can be successful and the vendor community can be successful as well in securing the supply chain. What else are we doing? Oh, I know what I forgot. People first, right? I think we got some great remarks about the fact that none of this gets done without people. And one of the most exciting things, in my opinion, that's going on in the Department of Homeland Security right now is the cyber talent management system. Angie Bailey, our Chico, is just amazingly creative and talented, and she's really leaned in on helping us shore up our cybersecurity talent pool. The CTMS program is a wholly new personnel system. Right now we operate under Title V. This is a Title VI program. It will give us a great deal of flexibility. It allows us to leverage industry best practice in attracting and retaining cyber talent. We compete with all of you. So we're looking for some creative mechanisms to allow us to find the very best and brightest to join us at the Department of Homeland Security and help us secure the enterprise. We hope to see that CTMS system come online at the end of this year and begin hiring the first employees into the system soon after. It is an assessment-based system, so it will look for aptitude, and we hope that will allow us with some recruiting efforts as well and support our inclusion and diversity. One of the things that we're very mindful of, at least in the IT community, is the need to attract a diverse talent pool that reflects the American public. So we're hoping the CTMS program will allow us to reach out into maybe areas that we haven't been able to recruit from previously. So by the way, if you know anybody that might be interested in working for the Department of Homeland Security, please keep an eye out for the Cyber Talent Management System, and please encourage them to apply. We need all the help we can get. I want to thank you all so much for your time today. Thank you for listening to me talk about the most wonderful federal agency there is, the Department of Homeland Security. Thank you.